So what we need to do now is apply the displacement map to our exported geometry, and we have to set up what's called a displacement map node. So let's, I'm going to go in Modeler first. I want to rename the UV map. Right now it's just called default. And we're going to go to Edit Maps, and we're going to go to Rename Vertex Map, and we're just going to call it Skin. Okay, so just for the elephant skin. And okay, let's hit S for save. And let's, sorry, I want to check layout for a second. No, I don't have anything in there. And let me send object to layout. Okay, perfect. Okay, let's move our, just going to move my camera into place. And I'm going to hit the lights. I'm just going to rotate this a little bit just so I can see what I'm working on here. Okay. So, what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to start to set up this node. So, I'm going to go under, I'm going to click on Objects, Properties, and let's go Edit Node. You can see here under Object Properties, under the Deform tab, we have an Edit Nodes feature. So let's click check mark that and go into the panel. Okay, so you can see the displacement. We need to rig up a node set in order to apply that that displacement map. Now, don't worry if you don't know anything about nodes. Basically, you just have to copy what I've done here, and like I said, just write the information down and the settings, and you'll be fine. The neat thing about this node is that you can adjust the strength of the displacement. So if you don't like the way it looks, you can change it. So it's sort of dual purpose. It doesn't just load up the exact same thing you did, but it can do that, or you can adjust it to something else. Okay, so we need double click, and that will load up an image node. I'll just put this over here for now. We need, you see here, we need a spot info node. I'll put that there. We need a subtract node and a multiply node. Where are we here? Subtract node, multiply. That should be it, and we need a subtract node. Okay. So when you double click on some of these, you will get property panels that will show up, and you can fill in certain pieces of information. The image node, the only thing you have to do is physically apply the actual map. Right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to I need a couple more, I think I just need one more node. I need a scale node. And double click, it loads that up. Okay, so I'm going to click on the little blue dot and drag it out, plunk that one in there. Once again, like I said, draw a diagram of this or do a print screen and write down the values. I would definitely keep it in your notes. It's very easy to forget. It's not that difficult, but if you're working with multiple pieces of software like I do, it's one of those things where you're going to want to or have this stuff written down. The spot info node needs to go out from the normal. And okay, yeah, normal. There's a few different ones that say normal beside it. We're going to go with just the regular normal, and that's going to go into the scale vector. Okay, and we're going to put this one into the A channel. Like I said, once again, you don't really need to know what these really exactly do. First, you just need to be able to connect them together in this sequence. Okay, all the nodes are in here. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The displacement node, that's basically it's plugging into the surface. The image node, that's where we're going to add the displacement map that we created in 3D Code. And this one here, the multiply node, I just double clicked on it. Notice that the A is sort of truncated out, okay, but the B level is open that we can actually change the values for this. This node, the multiply node, is what it'll do is it'll multiply the strength of this map over here so that you can make it more intense or less intense. So the bumps could be really big or they can be really small and subtle. Or, once again, you just adjust it so that it will be the correct setting for your make it match similar to what it looked like in 3D Coat. So I'm going to take the Luma and put it into the A. Okay, so you can see how they sort of feed into one another. And that's sort of, if you've never worked with nodes before, basically that's how this works. There's certain attributes in each one of these nodes that once they're mixed together and funneled and channeled through each other, they'll provide a desired result at the end. So that's, on the subtract node, we need a value of 0.5 on B. And the multiply node, it may vary depending on the situation, and we'll scale that as we get to it. So notice that these are the display or the scale. The scale node is I just double clicked on that to get to its parameter box, and all that stuff is grayed out, so you don't have to worry about that. I double click on the displacement node, there's nothing there, so you don't have to worry about filling anything in there. Spot info, double click, nothing shows up, so you don't have to worry about that one. It's just the image node we need to load up our image. So image, it says none. We need to, right now the normal map is loaded up. Let's get the displacement node in there. And we need to go down to mapping. We need to pick a UV map, and the UV map, we just renamed it to the skin of the elephant. Okay. And bring all these guys down a little bit. This a little smaller. Multiply. Okay, I'm going to actually go 0.1 because it's taking a little while for me to mess with this. Okay, so there we go. We got some action on the surface. And try 0.2. Now, as you can see here, that what's happening is that we've got some spikiness going on, and that's sort of going to be a bit of a problem. So you can see that bulge, like we have that we create in the front of the trunk, that's there. What we're going to do is we need to change some of the settings in our object properties. It looks like this is kind of good to go. Let's put this back to 0.1. Sometimes 0.1 is a good setting to start with. Our bumps, remember, they weren't really that big. So I'm going to turn that off, and we're just going to close the node, the edit nodes panel down. But make sure you keep this checkbox checked, because if I check it, look what happens. So just keep it checked. If you accidentally deselect the check mark, don't worry, it's still there. Just remember to save out your scene while you're working. So let's do that now, just in case the world blows up. I hate it when it does that. When the world blows up, that is. And let's just we'll throw this into the objects section, and we'll just call this displacement node setup. That'll be the name of our scene. So what we need to do now is in the object properties, we need to give this a little bit more, we need to give the elephant a higher resolution. We need to go to a higher sub-D level. So let's take a look under geometry. And right now you can see that it says display subpatch level of 3. So we're at we have 3 subpatch levels. And then there's render subpatch level, which is the important one for when you're rendering. If we just sort of want to look at our results, let's actually, I'm going to go into perspective mode, because that'll be easier for us to play instead of camera. Okay. So you can see they're all spiky now. That means that there isn't enough geometry to make these bumps nice and round the way they are here in 3D Code. Some of them are starting to get a little spiky, but most of them are fairly round, and this is a very roundish looking piece of geometry that we just sort of painted on the trunk here. And so we want to try to make sure that we have our settings set up and layout so that we're reproducing the exact same thing, provided that this is the look that we were going for. So let's come back and let's type in a value of 5 and see how things sort of got a little bit rounder. Let's try 6. Okay. No, let's go back to first, after displacement. Okay, let's go back to first, and let's go to try 9. Okay, that looks like it's starting to round out a bit. Sometimes you have to get it up fairly high. Yeah, now it's starting to get to where we need to get. Let's try 11. Now it's rounding out more. Okay. Let's try 12. Now, normally if you were see, for setting this up, it's good to leave the display sub. It's okay to use a display subpatch level of 12 or more, or whatever you're going for. Try 20. Yeah, there it is. Okay, but you might find, yeah, things are starting to it's sort of slowing down the machine a little bit. So what I suggest doing is, after you have your textures set up and your displacement maps and all that stuff, turn this back to the subdivision level of the default of 3, but then the render subpatch level, you will put that to 20. Both of these are the exact same thing, the display subpatch level and the render subpatch level. The only difference is that the display subpatch level is just for looking at this in OpenGL. If you were to render this right now, it would be a subpatch level of 3. So right now you could see that this is, it looks pretty decent now. It's nice and round, as you can see, like back what we had in 3D Coat. So I think we're where we need we need to be, guys, as far as this goes. And so yeah, that looks about right. And if now once you have that smooth look that we were going for, we can open up the node editor and see how it says 1. Well, we can actually use this slider and increase. Whoops. I could increase this. Let's try 0.5, see what happens. See, if we increase this value, the multiply node, it gets bigger. Okay, but doesn't really look the way we wanted it from originally in 3D Coat. So, I mean, we didn't do a lot with this, but like I said, 0.1, I notice a lot of times I try that first, and then I kind of work my way up from there. But a lot of times the value of 0.1 seems to work out nicely. Now another thing, like I said, I wanted to mention is that the making really big giant sculpts, like tall ones that stretch out, isn't really a good idea. You're better to actually model large things like spikes and giant bumps and stuff. Little bumps like this isn't so bad. But once you start getting into full-on horns and stuff and tusks, you don't want to put that in a displacement map. Most of the time, it doesn't turn out properly. So, and you may wind up with weird. You will wind up with, depending on how far you push it, you'll wind up stretching your textures, and there'll be like skewing and stretching of your color maps and all that your color maps and your normal maps and all that fun stuff. So keep the bumps fairly small. I wouldn't go any higher than what I just did here. So let us bounce back to layout. If we go into VPR mode, there you go, not bad. And if we go to render right now, what are we? Oh, we need to go back to camera so that we can actually line this up. I just want to show you the difference here. Oh. Sorry guys, I was trying to move my camera, but I actually grabbed my object. It happens. Okay, so we're in VPR mode right now, so everything still looks fairly smooth. If I go into render a frame right now, notice that, that it's all looks all polygon-like. It's not round and smooth like in VPR or in the OpenGL mode. Okay, so you can see it's blocky. It isn't nice and round like we did in 3D Coat. So if we go back to Object Properties under Geometry, the subpatch level, it's affecting the OpenGL and the VPR mode. Because if we go back to just solid, texture shade solid, it's still nice and round. We go to VPR. It's nice and round. Takes the time for it to load up a bit. But so in order to render, I'll keep this one in memory so you can compare. Let's put the render subpatch level at 20 because that seems to work for this particular object is the subpatch level of 20. Let's hit render frame and doink, abort. Actually, I'm going to change the camera settings. Classic camera. We'll go classic. Medium. And I want to render off a frame here. Just give it a moment. Okay, so you can see that it's the render came out. It's rounded, and that's the difference. So this was a render subpatch level of 3, and then when we jacked it up to 20, see the huge difference. So anyways, if you have your subpatch level at 20, it won't render the roundness. It won't render the proper subdivision level. It'll only if you have render subpatch level set to 3, it will look like this, which is not what you're trying to do. So that's one thing that a lot of people make mistakes at, is that they don't understand that they have to work with these subpatch levels in the render, like in OpenGL, to set it up. So once again, the display subpatch level is going to help you set this up, and so that you can monitor it, have live feedback, and then the renders, the render subpatch level down here is for when you're actually rendering and going to video or film or whatever your output source is. Now, the pipeline that I suggest you follow, if you're planning on taking a character and animating it, I would, before you start trying to, add keyframes and say you're trying to make the character walk or whatever it is you're going to be making it do, set your texture up, put your subpatch level, the display subpatch level to where you need it so that things are looking right, so you can adjust everything, make everything look good. And then when you eventually are going to start animating, then turn this back down to, subpatch level of 3 or lower, depending on the situation. And when you're going to render, then turn this up. It's the reason why I'm saying turn the display subpatch level down while you're actually animating and making keyframes and making the character walk and do whatever else it's going to do. The reason why I say that is because when you increase the subpatch level of an object, your scene winds up loaded full of polygons, because what a subpatch level is it takes your original base mesh, your original, let's go to wireframe. It takes your original base mesh and it subdivides it multiple times. This is a 20 subdivision level object. So it took our original base mesh, and let's go down to 0. Sorry, I'm gonna grab this, type in 0. See, this is our base mesh. There's not a lot of polygons in it in comparison to what you're seeing here. So it's creating an illusion. It's subdividing this so many times. And then we've also added a displacement image, which it layers itself on top of the subdivision levels that we've created here. So you can see here, if I go up to subpatch level 3, see how we've increased our geometry? So that's what this is, the premise is what this is working on. So we're combining, and I mentioned this before, in order to create this final image here that we have, with rounded horns and the round smooth body, we're creating an illusion with the sub D levels, okay, because we're adding all this extra geometry to smooth things out. But you can see at the same time, because we don't have enough geometry, you see these little triangles are sticking out. These are the bumps from the image map. So they don't look very round just yet. And in order to get those rounded out, we had to, keep going up. And you can see they're getting a little rounder. There's still, some of them are a little spiky, but you can see that it adds more polygons to the scene. So what I was trying to get at is, if you're trying to bend and flex the legs of the character, your computer might slow down quite a bit if you have, or almost stop, if you have too many subdivision levels while you're trying to animate. So what you do is you turn them down when you're adding keyframes. So this is up at 20. See how dark the character got? Because the amount of polygons in here is crazy. It's so you can see where it says polygons. This mesh now has 940,800 polygons. That will slow Lightwave down if you're in the middle of doing some keyframe animating. But when you render it off, you put this level at 20 and hit F9 and doink. Or F10 if you're F10 if you're doing rendering a sequence of frames. So, anyways, I hope that makes that a little clearer on how that works. And as far as this node goes, like I said, if you're not into this whole node business, I really suggest you go through this video and take some notes. Okay, you've only got five nodes to hook up. Make a chart, and so like once again, I generally for multiply start off with 0.1. This one here, subtract node, I start with 0.5. The scale vector node, you don't have to type in anything in there. No information. The spot node, you don't have to type in anything for that. You just have to set up this guy over here. And the displacement node, there's no work to do there either. All it is just connecting it into the input. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 nodes you have to load up on your own from this chart over here and plug it into here. Okay, so we're going to stop here and we will be back in a moment.